crutch is a word or a sound we use when our brain needs time. It's a stalling strategy. And like the crutches that help us get back on our feet when we sprain our foot or break a leg, verbal crutches help us. However, there comes a time when you have to learn to walk on your own 2 feet. In the same way, crutches we call fillers, when overused, can dilute the strength of your message, your authority, your clarity, and your presence. Let's look at some of the most common. We have some sound-based fillers, these processing sounds that sound like You hear them everywhere, and we use them all the time. Why? Because we're thinking and speaking at the same time, and it allows us to think of the next thing we want to say. But when we constantly use fillers like these, we break the rhythm of what we're saying. We signal uncertainty. We distract the listeners, and we reduce our perceived confidence. Other fillers are word-based. These are actual words used as padding, and they're very common with native speakers. Lexical fillers are word-based fillers, and these are actual words used as padding. They're very common with native speakers. So I'm sure you've heard of like, I mean, basically, sort of, kind of. So here's a fun example, which might be a slight exaggeration, but it's not too far-fetched. So I was basically, trying to sort out and explain. So you can see I used about 10 words to say not much. And these words can often soften the strength of your message. They reduce, it seems like, your commitment to what you're wanting to express. They blur meaning, and they confuse the listener and really take away from the power of your message and your presence. Another example are repetition loops. You keep saying things like, what I want to say is, what I want to say is, what I want to say is, or the thing is, and this happens when the speaker is organizing thoughts mid-sentence, of course. I do it myself, I have to admit. And these are very common. However, if we want our message to be strong and we want to show confidence, we can focus on managing the use of these crutches. There are a few more examples of fillers in the form of sentences. I often hear these from non-native speakers. They're self-diminishing phrases like, my English isn't very good, but, or maybe this is wrong, but, or I'm not sure if this makes sense. So you can see in this case, it's not necessarily the language problem per se, but rather a self-protection strategy. Why do we use crutches? Maybe we're buying thinking time. We're trying to reduce anxiety or soften disagreement. Maybe we're trying to avoid silence or protect our ego a little bit. And yet, while it's good to become aware of these crutches, the real issue is not the crutch itself. And this is what I'm leading to. The real issue is our discomfort with pausing and ultimately silence. So the most powerful replacement, the pause, is what's going to be your practice tool in this case. Silence feels long to the speaker, but to the listener, it feels controlled. Watch leaders and professors or seasoned executives who have worked on their public speaking skills. They pause, not because they are slow, but because they are certain. They take their time. Now, I'd like to share a couple of ideas on how to work with these crutches, these fillers. You don't have to necessarily eliminate them completely. That's not the idea here. Rather, you learn to interiorize them and work with them. So to start, you can record yourself without judgment. Just observe yourself, very objectively and speak for 2 or 3 minutes. And notice which filler you're using, how often and when. Are you using it at the beginning, during the middle, before opinions, during disagreement? Once you become aware, awareness reduces the usage by almost half. And awareness is the key. And the way to become aware is to record yourself. I know it can be painful at first, but you get used to it. Then what you want to do is replace the sound. Instead of I think we should, you can say, I think we should. So there's a silence there. There's a pause. Now practice tolerating 2 to 3 seconds of silence. That's it. That's your executive presence there. Just practice 1, 2, 3 silence. So that will help you to become more comfortable with the silences, with pausing. These are super powerful. The next thing you want to do is upgrade softening language. So instead of saying kind of, sort of, maybe, I think, which may weaken your message, you can start to practice sentences or phrases like my view is, or the data suggests, or what I'm seeing is, or I recommend. So you don't need to go anywhere near aggressive. You don't need to sound aggressive. You just need to be clear. Slow down the first sentence. Most fillers happen in the first 10 seconds. So train yourself to start like this. Let me respond to that. There are 2 things I'd like to highlight. So notice the pause. I'm giving myself a chance to really structure in my brain before I speak. Now, this one's especially for non-native professionals because often they fear that it's their grammar that's holding them back, but it's usually not the grammar. It's more about the processing speed and the pressure you're under. So learn to prepare key phrases for meetings and presentations and practice transitions and use microstructures like first, second, then, and give yourself permission to pause. Lastly, fillers are not incompetence. They're just like cognitive traffic signs. But polished speakers learn to work with them. They integrate them and they don't keep repeating them. They think in units and they speak in sentences and they pause intentionally and they remove the verbal clutter. So the goal is not perfection. It's becoming clearer, more calm and trusting yourself. So go ahead and practice and record yourself. It's uncomfortable at first, but the more you do it, the better you will become at expressing your ideas. Bye for now.